You know, it's always tough when you get into this first week with your exit interviews, the physicals, the finality of it all. We'll have a calendar probably, you know, within 4 or 5 days that'll take us all the way through the start of the training camp, and then we update it once we get the schedule. I don't think, and look, I won't get into depth, but I don't think there are many major medical, like, will they be ready for the start of training camp? I haven't met with Bo yet, but on that front, it seems fairly optimistic. So I'll open with any questions.
Coach, right here, you've had some unfortunate playoff losses where, you know, the refs, in my opinion, jobbed you in one game with the Rams, the Minnesota Miracle. But this game, you left, you know, feeling like something you did, one of your decisions, affected the outcome. And now that you had, I know it's short time, but had some time to reflect. How do you look back now?
I think you always have, even in those other games, I think it's important. I told our players, man, you cannot. We're in this industry. You're gonna get punched and have some tough losses. It happened 2 years ago in Kansas City, or a year and a half ago, and then we responded. You referenced a few games that were, holy cow, difficult, but that can't discourage you from coming back, or you're never gonna, you know, taste it. Now, specifically to the fourth down call, I don't know which is the greater regret. The decision is certainly the play call. You know, back in the good old days, you used to be able to get a measurement. All right? And there was something about a measurement that did two things. I knew he was short, and when you look at the film, he was actually a little shorter than they marked it. But it also buys you time to think of the call you want. So we used the timeout, and I think probably what irks me more is the call more than the decision. It's still early in the game now, you know, and we knew there was going to be flurries. Well, we have a new feel for flurries here, you know, or what can change at the base of a mountain. But that, yeah, there are those moments where, you know, that you wish you had back.
Sean, just to follow up on the fourth down decision, I know you're thick-skinned, but how do you feel about all the criticism that you're receiving for it?
I don't pay attention to all the criticism. I think if I paid attention to that, I don't know that we'd ever be in this position.
Coach, to your left, I know you say each year you start over, you've got to reset the board, but how can the success that you guys had this year, first division title in 10 years, help you as you move forward and kind of take that next step?
Yeah, but I love the question, but man, I will not use that word, take the next step. We go back to the start of the race. Like every 32 teams like has to go back and go meet their parents, eat their oranges, and get ready to start again. Like there's not, that's really important. Now, we do that with more resources. We do that without dead cap. We do that with a foundation in place. We do that with optimism and confidence from the journey we've been on. And I think that's important.
Coach Middle, right here.
Yeah.
You talked about the dead cap. How beneficial will it be to move on from a significant amount of that dead cap moving forward to be able to continue?
I think, like in any case, if I said I'm going to give you $50,000 to decorate your home or $200,000, the home's going to look nicer. I think if you're a decent shopper, if you have more money, I think the takes place with our sport. And I'm proud of the way I'm proud of the way everyone else handled it and looked at developing young players and didn't use it as a built-in excuse. We can find those all the time. But I think it's significant, and it's still important. We evaluate wisely, we draft wisely, we make these decisions regarding free agency with well thought out plans, and we go from there.
Sean, just your impressions of how kind of Bo has handled the early days and weeks since his injury, and kind of what comes next for him.
He's doing well. He literally was just above us here. I asked him, what were you doing trying to get your scooter laps in? And so he's got X amount of time on the scooter, then it goes to the crutches, then it goes to the walking boot, so there's a process. You got to know him. He's fidgety to begin with, and so he might have been just getting his scooter laps in, but he was up there, like in an area where I'm like, he never would be in, department-wise. I think it's he's handling it like a pro. I'm sure there's disappointment, for him to have to watch, for any of our players that get injured and that are removed for a game or more than one game. I can think of Alex with his cancer. I can think of a number of guys, Dre Greenlaw, having to sit. That's difficult. And and it wasn't until 2011 when something like that, like severely happened to me in the sideline of a game. And I was 9 weeks, now I was still at the games as the head coach, but you sit in that training room and you're there 3 times a day and you realize that the train keeps moving. Like there's a practice going on out there. I'm the head coach and I'm in here with a bag of ice on my knee and a plate and screws in my leg, and it just keeps moving and it keeps moving. And so the 2 things I learned from that, it gave me greater perspective for how a player feels. And when I had gotten there, Bill had told me, keep the training room at 67 degrees, no food. Back then, no cell phones. It's different. But he didn't want it to be a place like a lounge. And so I did that. And, we were setting the early groundwork of the program there. And then, here it is 5 years later. I grabbed our trainer. I said, Scotty, it's colder than shit in here. He goes, this is the temperature you want it at. And I said, all right, do you have some blankets? We're going to leave it at the temperature. I think it's difficult, though. I think it's difficult to get as far as he brought us, and then maybe to see also one of his contemporaries, like someone in his draft class that he would have loved to have competed against, advance. It can be a tough game.
Hey, Sean, I know you made a crack about it after the Buffalo game, but is there any concern that Bo has had several ankle surgeries? And
no, and make understand that was in jest, and I'm going to stop trying to be funny. That's my. I'm going to stop trying to be funny. That's. I think what was found though, what was a condition that was like predisposed right at that they always find a little bit more when they go in, and it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. So it wasn't, because when you look at the play and you're trying to evaluate it, he said, the doctor, operating surgeon said that this was going to happen sooner than later. Now you go about the rehab proper orthotics, all those things. But he's been one of those players that I would say has been available. There were others in that draft class that weren't as available. So I think the rehab coming off of this will be strong. But the news that was something the way it was explained, that it was coming sooner than later. So he'll rehab his tail off and get ready, get back to being healthy. And I think for someone who runs with the ball, I think he's done a pretty good job of protecting himself. Not all the times, but for the most part, he's done a pretty good job of sliding and understanding playing for another day.
Sean, staff-wise at this point, are you thinking that you could lose Davis, and you were once a young coach with the Raiders involved? Like, what has it been like sort of watching him go through this process?
Just every year, you go through it. Davis, then you have Vance, and their team's inquiring about Leonard. It's part of the deal. You're supportive. I think it's always, here's the difficult part. The difficult part is, sitting on that competition committee, staff. And what's difficult is when it's taking place while you're still playing. And I think our guys have done a good job handling that, but it's still difficult, because preparing for one of those interviews requires time, like quite a bit of time. And then, preparing for an opponent in the playoffs requires every waking minute. And so, I don't know that I have the solution, but I think it's a challenge that we've battled as a league. But certainly supportive of those guys and I've said this, you want those guys. Joe Brady, I think, was named this morning. I hired him right out of college, so he's, proud of him. Just spoke to him, 2 days ago. You want to see guys that come in and work, that are part of your staff. You want to see them have success, not the other way around. And then we'll figure out when and if we lose a coach, what the plan is going to be. Well, it'd be a pain in the ass for him.
Yeah, Sean, aside from the football type injuries, we're down in the league as far as getting weaker through injuries.
So we finished in the last 3 years.
Okay.
And this is I think it's important to bring up, because I think Bo has done a great job. Second in the NFL over a 3-year span, first in the NFL in 23, second in the NFL in 24, and again, so that those numbers are important because they validate the decisions in the offseason program.
Greenlaw was talking yesterday about how you.
I've read.
Yeah, he practices a little tougher than Kyle does, which probably is a factor in callousing these guys. But how do you balance that? Do you talk?
I like how we balanced it right now, though. I mean, meaning if we're second in the NFL with fewest games missed, man, that's extremely important. Now, I think more importantly, all right, Dre, Cortland, Wednesday might be just a NIR rest day. I think I can be better in that area.
I was going to say keeping them fresh for 20-game season now.
Yeah, but I think the ladder, we know what the ladder is. You guys saw the ladder in 22, where there's over 125 players. Over 125 players missed games because of injury, and no one played in the preseason. There weren't ever pads on. We're never doing that.
Coach, in the middle here, speaking of the differences between you got here and what you've done since you've been here. Before you got here, 8 straight losing seasons. Since you've been here, 5th most wins in the NFL. Has the turnaround happened quicker than you expected, and was it any surprise?
It's a good question. I think there are these moments where, like, all right, year one, and we suffer our 4th loss, giving up 70 points. All right, the moment has happened quicker than I expected at that moment, and then we bounce back. We're pushing for a playoff spot in that first year, close. We have a winnable game versus New England. We lose that, lose Vegas, and then I think last year was important, not only in the draft, the quarterback, but there were a number of things. I don't think you ever put, like, you just start working, and I don't know that you have this timetable. You just know that everyone else is going, and it's you kind of have these blinders on. You can't see the other 31. I say that, like, the first year in New Orleans, we didn't win a preseason game. And I came into the locker room, I think, after one of the preseason games, and I told Loomis, we're not going to win 3 games this year. Like, I just was, and then you get going, and then and so you're not keeping track of, like, eventually where you want to be, but you're certainly, as a head coach, it's hard to say or gauge when you think that's going to happen. You just know it has to happen. Like, it has to happen, or there's going to be another introductory press conference and another navy blue suit. It has to happen, and then go make it happen.
Coach, how will you go about improving the run game?
Great question. I stepped into Zach's office yesterday. I said, look, there's probably a series of answers to that what we're doing. I feel like we're far enough along with the RPOs and some of that, but when we want to run it under center and control a game, we've been able to do it a few times, but not as much as I'd like, I think. And so that'll be an important study. And, with urgency and then also with the runners who are we asked, losing J.K. Obviously is a tough loss. He brought a lot to the locker room, more than you would know, but that'll be one of the points of emphasis that I think that we research and look into heavily. I want to play from the gun, but I also will always want to play with a 2-back or multiple tight end mindset. Have that flexibility, and it's a good question. I think it's one of the key things we have to do this offseason.
Sean, over here, for the record, I thought you were joking too.
All right.
Going into this offseason, you mentioned the drops, season-long problem with the receiver group. Is that going to be a position, an emphasis of need this offseason? You think upgrading that room of skill, talent, pass catchers?
Look, we've drafted to it, and I like who we've drafted to it. There were too many, even down the stretch, and so we'll look at the thing with the draft. Man, we've invested, and I like the players in that room. We've got speed, we've got size, we've got all the things I'm used to. You'd want to have in a good offense. But I think that there's a proper way to catch a football, and most of the times it's with your thumbs together, not the other way around. And the other way around, I'm serious, only exists when the ball's below your belly button. Even the deep balls should be caught, with your thumbs together. So we got to be better at that.